5% of New York's land area, which is less than 1/3 of the existing roofs and parking lots to power the whole state. I think wind is probably powering, I don't know, maybe 15%. You know, the wind is great, but you do have to be kind of on a hilltop where there is wind, whereas the solar resource across the state is very uniform. If you look at that NREL database in the National Renewable Energy Lab, the irradiance is close to 1,500 kilowatt hours per square meter per year across the whole state. All right, so here's some of the numbers from the NREL database for some different places around the country. I got Binghamton up there at 1496, so this is kilowatt hours per square meter per year. This is the irradiance, the amount of solar energy falling on us that we can use. And San Diego is 2044. Binghamton is about 73% of what San Diego gets, so it's not as bad as you might think around here. And here's the really embarrassing thing. The world leader in solar energy is Germany. And their sunniest spot is 1250 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. The cloudiest spot in the United States is Seattle, which has 1387. All right, so every place in the continental U.S. gets more sun than the sunniest place in Germany, and yet they have 24,000 megawatts of installed solar, and we have not even, well, about 3,000 in the United States. So embarrassing. so we got to get busy. A couple of kinds of solar. So I understand someone came and talked already about solar hot water heating. That is a simpler technology involving flat plate collectors with copper tubing and a glass cover. Lots of people could have those. We've been pushing those a little harder lately because it doesn't take a lot of them to do your domestic hot water heating. There are places around where every house has those. I was riding a train in Japan one time. I went to a conference there, and I'm riding this train, and I'm seeing every other house had a solar hot water heater on the roof. This was 13 years ago, 14 years ago, a long time ago. Okay, so that's direct heating, and photovoltaics is light to electricity. And then wind, well, we kind of consider wind to be solar in a different form because the heating of the air causes wind. We do also install small wind turbines, but it's not so easy to find a spot that has a decent resource. You know, if you live on a hilltop and you look in the direction of the prevailing winds, which is mainly north and northwest and west here, if you can see for miles in that direction, there might be a chance you have a good wind resource. All right, so there's some solar hot water heating on the left, and on the right is one we did at SUNY Brockport just recently, an 80 kilowatt solar electric system at SUNY Brockport. There's quite a few colleges that are starting to go solar, which is great. Okay, so there's my little diagram of solar hot water heating. We'll skip over that, and then the mighty solar cell. I brought some samples here of a typical crystalline solar cell. Okay, so I'll just pass that around so you can check it out. There's also flexible thin film solar cells. So this stuff is 10 microns thick as compared to the crystalline cell, which is about 200 microns thick. So this is starting to be built into things, built into, say, shingles. There's a couple of companies working on that to build those into roofing materials. There's different efficiencies of solar cells. The traditional one, the size of a sort of a traditional cell now is bigger. The one I passed around is pretty small. This is more like a newer one, a polycrystalline module size. And then there's, this is about 14% efficient at converting light to electricity. And then there's the SunPower cell. So these both give the same amount of watts, but the SunPower cell is quite a lot smaller. So it's about 20% efficient at converting light to electricity. That means you can get more watts on your roof. Now getting more watts on your roof is not always a big issue. I mean, a lot of people have plenty of roof space to power their load, except something occurred to me that as people get electric vehicles, they might want to use their home electricity to charge their electric vehicle, and wouldn't it be nice if you could have enough solar panels on your roof to charge your electric vehicle? That's just one more getting off of fossil fuel, so you can power your house and then you can power your transportation. A little known fact, even if you power your electric vehicle from solar, the equivalent cost per gallon for electricity is about $1.55. It's like paying $1.55 a gallon for gas. Okay, so I'm gonna publish some little short thing on my website about this, because I think that if people just knew that there'd be a lot more people going out and buying electric vehicles, because we're all tired of high gas prices. All right, so solar cells are made into modules, and modules are made into systems. We started out doing off-grids. We did remote homes, camps, cabins, and this is one in the Adirondacks we did for the State Police and Parks Department. They have a radio repeater up there in the mountain. They have no utility power up there. It was figured out that it would cost a couple $1 million to bring utility power up there if the Adirondack Park Authority would let you do it. So the solar was much cheaper. Even back then, that was in the late 90s. They also have a wind turbine, which works great in the wintertime to charge the batteries. So they were using a propane-fired generator. When I first heard that, I was trying to imagine how they were getting the propane up the mountain, and I started to imagine llamas carrying propane tanks up the mountain. But no, they were using a helicopter to fly them up there, and that was very, very expensive. So once we got the solar panels on there, no more propane was needed. But all these off-grids, all of them have battery banks. That was, and until about 1999, that was the only choice. You had to have a battery bank if you wanted to have solar, because the sun doesn't shine all the time. So, and those batteries were all lead-acid batteries. Well, then in '97, the governor signed the net metering law, which was then implemented in about 1999. Was the first time we were able to actually do it. And that's a situation where instead of having batteries, you just either feed your load or turn your meter backward and feed the grid. And you get credit at the retail rate. So that's how net metering works in New York. It works, most states have it. The rules are a little different from one state to another. But in New York, you get your retail credit from month to month. And then at the end of the billing year, if you still have extra at the end of the billing year, they'll give you a wholesale credit for the yearly excess. But for the monthly excess, you're getting the retail credit. So if you're paying NYSEG 12 cents, they got to pay you 12 cents for extra solar electricity. So that's really nice, because now you don't have to worry about a battery bank, which is a big maintenance item and pain in the ass to deal with. And it's also this is called a pure grid tie system with no batteries. It's also a low maintenance system. It's less expensive, easy to deal with. You put it on and it runs, and it lowers your electric bill. Okay, so this is how simple it is. You got your solar modules, which could be on the roof or on a ground mount, feeding an inverter. The inverter converts direct current to alternating current, and the output of the inverter goes right to your circuit box, feeding a breaker in your circuit box. That's it. So very simple thing. We've even got some systems that have the inverters right on the back of the panels, so you don't even have an inverter hanging on the wall downstairs. All right, so there's a couple of ground mounts. Roof mounts are cheaper, but ground mounts are sometimes preferable if you want to, say, sweep snow off your panels in the winter, or you just don't have a space on your roof, or your roof doesn't face the right direction. Of course, the south-facing orientation is the best for solar in the northern hemisphere. It's a deck-like structure, and then pole mounts, so if you want something up high, you can mow under it. Yeah.
Quick question in regards to trackers. Are they a net zero for using them over the track?
Tracker. Okay, trackers work in certain. It depends on where you are. If you're out in the Southwest, a tracker can increase your production by 30%. So what he's talking about is you track the sun, you're going to get the maximum output when the rays of the sun are perpendicular to the panels. So the tracker adjusts the orientation and tilt to do that all day. But it is a moving thing. And up here in New York, it probably is only going to increase your production 10 to 15% because there's a lot of clouds. It has a little bit harder time pointing in the right direction, and we are in the land of freeze and thaw, so a lot of times it gets, we have had a couple of customers that had them and they got stuck from freezing, and they need maintenance because they're a moving thing. You have to put, if they have motors, you have to lubricate the motors every year. And what we found is one of the earlier installers before we came along had installed a bunch of trackers, and we discovered that they all broke down because the customers didn't maintain them. They didn't do the lubrication, which is just, it's another maintenance item. The other thing about trackers is they are significantly more expensive. So what we found at the moment anyway, because the price of the solar panels themselves is pretty low, that generally for this location, it's better to have a few more fixed tilt panels instead of having a moving part.